Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of On the Mic with Ray White. I am super excited to have a friend of mine. Actually, we got connected just a short few months ago, and then COVID hit and then everything happened. But regardless, I'm excited to get this dude who has the creative genius, who has a mind that is showcasing a lot of the creativity that he has, and would love to have his story shared on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Isaac Moreno. Isaac,
Hey,
what's going on, man?
what's up? What's up, Ray? Hey, just wanted to say it's a pleasure again for to be on the show in the first place. It's been a long time coming, so I'm just stoked to be here, honestly.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I, you and I got connected on a really small group of Salem podcasters. So for the listeners, we live in Salem, Oregon, and we were forming a small group of individuals who were into the podcasting space, who've done podcasting before, and wanting to just expand their voice and the skill set in that space. And Isaac was an individual who I connected with in that, who had a podcast, the Jelly Filled podcast, actually, which I'm I'm still like, how'd you come up with that name? But the Jelly Filled podcast was one of your creative endeavors that I would love to dive into and kind of talk a little bit more about, of just like how that journey started, how was it for you, and some of the reasons behind it. Uh, the story behind it is pretty cool, dope. So tell me a little bit more about the Jellyfield podcast and name especially.
Okay, let's see. So I think it was right after graduating from Portland State University. I was like, oh, hey, I spent most of my free time doing homework and then going to work and going to sleep and going to school. And that was my life for 4.5 to 5 years. And then finally, once I got out and graduated, I was like, oh, I got some free time. And I was like, hey, what's up, friends? Like, I haven't seen anybody in a while because I've been so busy. Y'all want to hang out? And, it's been really cool catching up with people, seeing them. Um, and with all that free time, I was like, well, since I don't have to invest it into homework, I got bored and I'm like, well, what would I want to do? And I thought of what creative endeavor could potentially be a career that I could enjoy. And if it doesn't work out to be a career, what's something that I would enjoy at the end of the day?
Mhm.
And somehow I managed to wrap around to podcasting because I was like, okay, I've homebrewed beer and that was fun, but I was done doing it. And I've played the ukulele and I've made some hip hop songs and some rap CDs and I've made some videos and photography and I've written poetry and all these things are things I've enjoyed for a time being, but then I stopped. Some of it I've continued doing, and somehow audio has always been like a format I've enjoyed. And I was like, well, maybe podcasting. And I was like, okay, what could it be about? And I thought it could be about the cool people who are in our community doing the thing that they're excited about, that they're the best at, whether it's graphic design or whatever. And the name Jellyfield specifically, I just had a list of like 50 different names. And I ended up managing to bring it down to like 3. It was Jellyfield and like 2 others. And I asked a couple of close friends, I was like, hey, what do you guys think about this, about these names? And they said, honestly, they're all kind of bad. But they thought that Jellyfield had the funnest potential when it came to marketing and branding. And I was like, well, my podcast isn't anything about food or donuts specifically. And even with that, I thought, you know what? Sure, let's just go with that name because I'm more in the idea that it doesn't have to be perfect if it can. I just needed to do it because at the end of the day, I knew the name wouldn't matter. Like Nike wasn't Nike before they were Nike. Like that name, that word didn't mean anything until it became something. So I thought Jellyfilled isn't going to mean anything for a while, but then it'll gain meaning as people gravitate towards it and hear about it and communicate with it and talk about it. And then it became Jellyfield. Well, now it's like people recognize it. Not many, but it's still
Yeah.
its own thing now, I created a baby and it came to life, and then I was like, hey, I'm going to leave you now, but not in like a weird father-son abandonment thing, but like I had to be done with it for a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That's what's up. That's what's up. There's a couple things that I'm interested in. That is one, it sounded like you went to college that was outside of doing podcasting or doing anything in that kind of space. That right? Like, what did you go to college for?
I originally went to Portland State for international studies with a regional focus in Europe, and then I changed it to South America. And then I decided, well, uh, I decided slash my financial aid uh, money was going to expire within the year. And I talked to my advisor and I was like, hey, how much longer do I have in this program? And they said, you would need to be in school for another year and a half. And I couldn't afford it. So I was like, hey, is there anything I can switch or major into that's different that could potentially get me out of here without crippling debt? And my advisor was like, hey, if you take this one writing class and switch a couple of these around, you can get out of here with a degree in social science and a minor in business. And I was like, I'll do it. I'll take it. And it was solid. It's been good to me so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. That okay. That's just wild just to think that one that moment in time of a real reason, like a root reason of finances, being able to achieve your degree that you set out to do, but unfortunately having to detour and make
Yeah,
that
just to finish.
the finish. So like how did that I guess how I'm processing like how would you feel in that moment, knowing that you going to school for this one thing that you wanted to study that you've been studying, but had to make a pivot? Like what like how was what was your thought process in doing that other than just like I gotta finish? But was that like heartbreaking? Or were you like,
Honestly, it wasn't. I thought it would be. It was pretty relieving for the most part because school was really taking a toll just at home personally, like not being able to help out financially. It's like, oh man, I'm really out here grinding, and the longer I'm doing this for, it's the longer it's going to be on, the harder it's going to be on me and my family. So it's like I got to finish ASAP. So that kind of outweighed it. Like I talked to my friend about it maybe a week before I had decided to make that change. Before I even reached out to my counselor, I was just thinking, I was like, "Hey man, what are you majoring in? What are you doing again?" And he told me, and he asked me the same thing, and I was like just thinking about it because I wasn't married to it. I just chose it at first because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I still technically don't, like what I wanted to really focus on or major in. So when I made that pivot and knew, hey, I am going to get out of here with minimal debt and a degree, it was just a big relief. Like to stay in school any longer would have been really difficult. Um, so I was actually really, really stoked, not heartbroken by any means, which is nice. But uh, hmm, yeah, I don't know. No heart, no regrets.
there it is. Hey, moving on. And I think we'll get to a little bit of how you're making that pivot and getting your degree in social sciences as well as a mind in with a tad bit of business too, how that tailors to what you're doing today. But what I'm fascinated by is just that you know you saw an opportunity to connect with friends once you graduated and come back home and really showcasing the life of Salem, right? And as an outsider, there's a lot to Salem that I still don't know. And even though
Yeah.
I'm here for 12 years, 15, I don't know, I've been here for a while, and there's still some things I'm like, wow, there's a lot to this community that I don't know about. So you doing the Jellyfield podcast sounded like was an opportunity to showcase the varying identities and people who are doing some dope things in the community on your show. And one thing that I remember you mentioning in that Salem podcaster group was it was your goal to do 52 episodes, one
Yeah,
episode.
1 year.
Yeah, 1 year of doing it. Why did you make that goal to only do a year or at least do a year? Like, what was the thought process behind getting to that point?
So I've noticed with myself that I have a lot of ideas and I don't have the time or energy to pursue all of them. As is with the music I listen to, I want to hear all the albums and watch all the movies and read all the great books, but I know I can't. I don't have the time for it or the bandwidth. So, slowly but surely realizing that I started getting really picky with what it is that I'm doing. So it's like, cool, I'm only going to listen to this one album, watch this one movie, this one book. And for me, that year, it was this is the only creative project I'm going to focus on for the entire year, because I don't want to be split in four directions where it's like, oh, I'm still writing music, I'm still making whatever, and then doing the podcast on top of that. And then I didn't want to stretch myself too thinly. So I thought I'll just do the podcast for a year, 52 weeks in a year, 52 episodes, and then be done. Or take a break and review and see how I feel about it. And I did the 52 weeks back to back, no breaks. And then I took a month off. And in that month, I thought, do I want to stop? Do I want to keep going? I decided I'm going to keep going because I missed it. And I did it for another 30 weeks, give or take. And I think at like week 20, I took like another month break just because I was getting tired with some other stuff. And then, COVID happened around March. And that's when I was like, hey, I'm going to stop the podcast because it's really hard. I think I had like 8 Zoom podcast episodes. And I was like, this is just getting hard. Plus, I was just trying to focus on like my regular day-to-day health and work and everything else. And I still miss the podcast, but I don't think I'm going to come back to it. I think Jellyfield's dead, but there'll be another endeavor, which there kind of has been already this year. And then next year, there'll be another.
Interesting. So like the fact of you, man, I'm trying to channel that focus, right? Just to be like, yo, I'm gonna focus on this one thing for this duration and I'm gonna give it my all. Like that, I think that's a lot what I admire about your tenacity and your attitude is that you put your effort and focus and you do it, to a 110%. And I've only known you for a couple months. So it's dope
Yeah.
that type of attribute like really comes out in the way that you execute, especially in the things that you're creative in. And that's I, I'm learning. So I'm gonna figure out a way to challenge that same energy, man. And that's dope. You mentioned a little bit of some of your other creative things, and it seems like this creativity is just coming. Like I'm interested in where that comes from. Like where does this desire to be creative? Um, it sounds like it's more than just you're not doing it for, you know, a career pursuit or whatever. It's just like out of interest, it's out of desire, it's out of like, oh, like this is cool and I want to put my effort into this. Where does that come from? Like where does that creativity come from?
I asked my mom the same thing when I was growing up, and she told me that when I was like 3, she put a little pencil in my hand and gave me a little notebook, and I would just scribble and scribble and scribble. And I don't know what it was, but I took every single art class every year throughout elementary, middle school, and high school. And then I took a couple in college, but I was like, yo, this is expensive. I need to take my like other classes. And that I think that's like one of the bigger shames in university, and like the pressure of being a first generation college student is like art is definitely my passion to a certain degree or in a bunch of different mediums, but it's like, but realistically, if I'm going to use this education to the best of my benefit to help pursue my career and help my family as much as I can do art on the side, but let's try to find some work out of this university education. But it's all good. If I went to art school, I'd be probably more mad at myself than if I graduated with a degree in social science like I did. No hate to anybody who's in art school though. Like, do you? Um, but it's always been there. I just like making something. I think it's cool to have nothing and then put something into the universe that someone can enjoy and gain value from and benefit, whether it makes them laugh, whether it makes them think, or just be confused and like think it's ugly or offends. Like you're still getting a reaction out of someone, and that's kind of cool. So I don't know what it is, but it's just always there. It's difficult because I'm restless a lot of the time. I'm calm, but I'm restless too. So it's bittersweet, but I still have fun doing it. That's why I had to just focus.
That's that's smart. That shows greater self-awareness, honestly, just to be able to like, I have these things that I know I can do and would love to do, but in order to see them done well, I got to figure out what my limits are, like figure out what that looks like. And I something you made a comment on just being a first generation college student and the pressures that puts onto you to, you have these desires, but you also have this, desires of being creative and doing what gives you fulfillment, gives you life. And then there's also the balance of wanting to make sure that you are successful and you are achieving the things that will help um, put you and your family in a better position down the road. um, Being able to find that balance, who helps you with that? Like, how do you, and it sounds like you do have the balance of knowing what's areas that you can, you know tackle and go forth and be creative and conquer in that space, but also take care of business and make sure that you and your family are good. But who do
Mm.
you have in your space that helps you balance that? Like, how do you navigate that?
Mm. Uh, Geez, it's been a handful of friends and my mistakes and um, yeah, I'd say my friends, my mom, and mistakes are the three things that have helped me the most in finding that balance. Because my friends have a very different perspective than my mom, and like we'll say for example, like let's say I'm struggling with a class, or I was struggling with the class in university. I could tell my mom, but there's not a whole lot of things that she can help me because she's not reading about Cuban history or whatever uh, psychology class I'm in. Whereas my friends can be like, oh, I took that professor 2 terms ago. Here's the book, so you don't have to drop some money on it, or whatever. Guide me through a little bit, like finding out about ratemyprofessor.com. That was a great resource that my friends were able to provide. So there's like one aspect, and then she would have obviously the mom approach. So it's like I would then go to my friends sometimes asking for some advice, and they would give me something, and I knew it was bad advice. And then I'd go to her, and she'd just ground me in the sense that it was like, yeah, I will be able to give you this solidification and validate you because they are giving you bad advice, and you have to do the thing that you don't want to do, the unpopular, unfun, uncool decision to stay going where you want to, because I wanted to drop out a handful of times, but she was like, you're so close, you're almost there. And I was like, okay,
Mm.
I'll keep going for us. And then the third mistakes being, yeah, partied too hard a couple of nights. And I was like, oh, all right, know your limits. And then other things, it's like, oh, uh, I know how to study better because I almost flunked that class. And then the second time, it's like, cool, apply yourself more, and just all these baby steps. Freshman year to senior year, big difference.
I feel like that's a story for a lot of us. 100.
Big difference. Yeah. Yeah. But it's been cool. I would say those are like the three things I can say helped keep a balance.
Yeah, and that's the mistakes piece. I know a lot of people don't necessarily, and by a lot of people I mean myself, don't want the mistakes to be a factor in how we balance ourselves or how we navigate the world and create those guardrails for us to move forward in, which is hard to grasp. But if we do take the step back to reflect, it becomes a good lesson, right? It becomes a good tool in our tool belt whenever we do take an action, do take a risk or what have you, to look back and be like, all right, what did I learn from this mistake? Who's in my camp or who's on my corner that can help me like navigate that well, and then to make the right decision, right? The comment of you almost dropping out, I 100% get that. It was excellent to have friends and mistakes and family to come on navigate that, so that way we make the right decision for the future that we're setting up. um that's dope, man. That's dope. Something that you wrote down in the form was your kind of the principles. I asked you, what are some principles or lessons that you've learned, and you wrote, be kind, work hard, and take risks. Talk a little bit about how that shows up in your life, and whether we can go back to what your college days were like, or just in the current state of how
Right.
those three different phrases make up the principles or the things that you do.
So concerning be kind, I don't remember exactly where I heard this, but I think some people in today's day and age with social media and our lives always being pressured to be viewed as perfect, um, we forget to allow ourselves to have those bad days and have those moments. And they're not always pleasant, but somewhere along the line, I saw or heard in this social media realm that, like, people are worried about legacy. Like, oh man, what are people going to say or think about me when I'm dead or in the future or whatever? And I remember being at the store. uh, I used to work retail at World Market years ago, and there was a woman who was rude to me, and she knew she was being rude to me, and I just said, like, I just bit my tongue. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And she left. And I knew she felt rude because at the end she didn't feel good about it. Her face didn't look like she felt good about it. And the person behind her apologized for her to me, and I was like, "Don't worry about it. You don't have to apologize for anything. It wasn't you, you know?" And it was just a really small moment, but somewhere in what I saw on social media and in that moment was that that will forever be that woman's legacy. I don't remember her name, I don't remember her face, but I just remember she was rude to me, and that is her legacy, and that is the way that she will be remembered in my life. And I thought, it's the same thing, but for kindness. If you can be nice to someone, they may not remember what you said or how you looked that day, what kind of Jordans you had on, or if you had spinach in your teeth or whatever, but they'll remember, oh yeah, that really dorky person that I ran into in the hallway, they were so nice. They were so kind to me when I was having a bad day, you know? And that's why I think it's important, because I would rather have that be my legacy to 10 random strangers or to three people who are really important in my life than to a million to the world. Don't get me wrong, it'd be cool to influence and like be able to touch a million lives in one way or another, but I would still, that's like at the foundation. It's just to be nice to people because, like, it's free, it doesn't cost you anything. It's a good thing to do.
Love it.
Um, and then the second one, to work hard. uh my mom told me, like, whatever you do, just work your hardest, try your best, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay, because you can walk away from that situation, event, or experience and know that you gave it your all.
Mhm.
And that as long as you tried, then I think you're good. And then the take risk part is, I don't think enough people take risk anymore. They do, people do, and we all get comfortable in our routines, but I still feel like there's more room and opportunity to take even more.
Yeah.
uh, I think we play it too safe as humans, uh, and I don't think we should. That's it. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. The risk piece is maybe more so we all take some level of risk, right? I mean, I don't think we necessarily walk around. I mean, there's some very risk averse people that don't take any risks. So I think what you stated is true. Uh, that we like the safety and comfort in our comfort zones, but even more so as we span out of that, the level of taking risks just seems astronomical, right? It just seems crazy to want to take risk and have to take risk. But that being a principle for you, um, I'm interested to kind of hear like what is one of the risks that that you took that you have taken in the past that you would like to share, and kind of the lesson that you learned about either yourself or the event itself. Uh,
hmm
yeah.
mm, I'll just tell you, like, the most recent biggest risk I took this year. So with I didn't want to do too many things with the podcast, and this last November of 2019, I was watching television, and I had listened to the How I Built This podcast hosted by Guy Raz, um, maybe a couple months prior. And I heard the story of the founders of Airbnb. And do you know their story?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So like for anyone who doesn't know, they didn't have a whole lot of money and they're like, hey, we're gonna make a political campaign cereal to get out of debt and make some seed money so they can turn Airbnb to what it is today. And they made Obama's and Honey Biden of Oats. And this last November, I'm thinking, huh, we got an election coming up in a year. I can do that too. And I was thinking, okay, let me just think. What's the name of the cereal that they could be? Who's the most likely candidate's going to be? What's the design going to look like? How much is it going to cost me? And it's a decent amount of money, but not the most amount of money. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do this. So that's when throughout early March, I'm in like November to that March, I'm coming up with the name, I'm making the designs, I'm finding a manufacturer in California to be able to make these boxes and all the pre-work. And then that's when I'm like, okay, COVID, podcast got to go. I'm still going to work on the cereal because my intent was I'm going to sell this for the 2020 election. And I finally made it. I made a website, and on the website, I was like, I'm going to sell both, and I'm going to make a Facebook page and an Instagram page and a TikTok, and I'm going to release it out into the world. And I was terrified because I thought, how are people going to react to this? But I had a really great friend who was like, hey, you just got to do it. And I was like, okay. And I did everything that I was afraid of, was like putting it out there. Once it was out there, I saw the nastiest comments from people about not the product, but the people on the product, because I made Cinnamon Toast Trump and Honey Biden of Oats. And they're fun cereals, like the name is fun. And I thought like the concept and all was just that. But people hate both presidents so much that it's just been divisive. So I got a bunch of bad comments. So there's risk and mistakes. I spammed on Facebook, so I got blocked from my own account. They thought I was a bot, and I had to verify my identity, not once, but 3 times. And TikTok was good. I got like 10K views on one video, but then nothing. Every other video was like 50, 50, 50. And I'm like, this isn't the audience. No one's buying. I made the website. People would comment like, oh, this is cool, but you're selling the other candidate cereal. I don't want it. So then I remade another website with 2 different home pages.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, that's working. I made an eBay, not working. I did OfferUp, that's worked. Facebook Marketplace, that's worked. Meeting in person. But I still have a bunch of cereal in my closet that's not selling. And what am I going to do with it? If nothing sells by election or after election, I'm going to donate it all to a food bank because I have no use to eat hundreds of boxes of cereal on my own. So there's the risk, here's like $1,500 plus to make a product to hopefully sell it for more. And at this point, I was just hoping to break even, and I don't even know if that's going to happen. But I knew I would regret it if I didn't try.
Wow. Dude, that's a lot to go into that.
Yeah.
Without even knowing, like, I mean, oh man, that's crazy. So the fact that you took this step, you saw somebody do it once before, right? With the guys from Airbnb, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, hey, it's a proven model. You have, in a sense, become second in the market, second into this space to create the similar product, similar model, um, and go through all the steps to really create a solid foundation for this to sell. And it sounds like it hasn't worked. It has, which,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not working. Like, how do you work through that? Because I think this is where I teach me, because I recognize that if I were to go through those steps, I would immediately feel very, I'll internalize to failure, right? And it sounds like for you, this is not something you've internalized, or unless I could be misreading the whole situation, but I feel like you've gone through this and been like, okay, I went through the steps, this sucked, this worked, that sucked, but yet you are still taking those steps forward, and even have a plan if you weren't able to sell all the boxes, and to donate them and give them away. So like,
Yeah.
tell me about the mindset of walking through from inception to now, of going through that step, like how do you keep yourself, you know, moving forward, motivated, not letting this get into your identity? Talk a little bit about that. How do you, what are some of the things that you do? Or you,
That's tough. That's tough because let's see. So in addition, I did want to note that I mailed like a box or boxes to CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Statesman Journal, called them all up, no responses from anyone. So that was disheartening. And originally launching, oh, God bless the first customers because they gave me hope, you know? And selling that first box was amazing. And selling the second box in person was just as ecstatic. But with those highs came some lows big time. Like, I think it was the month of April, I didn't work on the cereal at all. Like, I just was like, no, this is dumb. I only had the designs. I found the manufacturer, but I hadn't dropped any serious money on it yet. And I was like, no, I don't know if I'm going to do this. I don't even know who's going to win right now. Because at the time they had, like, I think still 5 different candidates um, for the Democratic Party. And I was like, I already made the Biden design betting that it was going to be him and Trump, not knowing, thinking, oh man, I might have to make a Bernie design, and then months later, oh man, I might have to make a Kanye cereal. Like, it's been a crazy, crazy year to like be able to try to predict all these things.
right.
So yeah, a whole month just completely unmotivated, didn't do anything, and it was right after COVID, so I'm just trying to like stay sane and put together. So honestly, I just had to go to fundamentals in that low point and be like, okay, Isaac, exercise today. Just go for a run and like don't drink a bunch of alcohol in the afternoon. Just have a glass of wine and like make yourself some noodles, like a simple ass dinner, and eat breakfast, like just really basic stuff, and get 8 hours of sleep. And doing that step by step made me feel good that I was like, okay, I feel like I got more energy. I can tackle a little bit more today. I have more energy in my reservoir. And now that we're later into the year, although nothing is necessarily great or improved or perfect, I still feel like I have more energy. Not in the sense that I've gotten used to the things that have been going on, but I've been able to manage my health better, to
Yeah.
be able to be like, okay, I can navigate through this.
Mhm.
Um, and there were some days where I was just like super unmotivated, and I just had to talk to someone, and they're like, hey, no, dude, like keep trying. And I was like, ah, okay, okay, I'll go. And like, it was those little moments and acknowledging, like, I've made it this far, I might as well finish. And there's still been some days. Just last week, I was like, I'm like, on the weekend at least, I was like, I'm not doing anything on like cereal related. If someone wants to come meet me and buy some, I'll meet them, but I'm not doing any promotion. I'm not going to make any content for it. I'm just going to veg out this weekend. And it was great. It was really great. But like, I can't do that every weekend because I'm still trying to get rid of this stuff. So it's a little bit of both, trying to be like, finding how much I can push out while maintaining the foundation.
Yeah. The fundamentals and the foundation that you spoke to is tremendous for us to recognize as well. Like, what are the things that are going to sustain us? And they're super basic, as you stated, like going to sleep, taking a break,
Yeah,
going on a run, working out, like the things that will help keep our body moving, with limiting our intake of just food and alcohol, all that kind of stuff. Like all that has a role in just keeping us functional. And
mm,
when you think about the was it Maslow hierarchy of needs, like that's just the basic layer, just the basic needs, the
exactly.
foundation. But like, it's dope that you continue to progress forward, and even recognize that in the journey you got to, you have your times of motivation, you have your times to take a break. Like, and that's okay. Like the extenuous pressure that you're putting on yourself, or that you are maybe feeling, you're able to subside that for a temporary moment, just in order to keep yourself going. um and that's okay to do. And I
Yeah,
think that I appreciate you saying that, because I know And this is coming out more and more for us in this season, in the hustle culture that we're in, constantly wanting to do more and excel more and do the best that we can, but yet knowing that there's a season for everything. And so in the midst of this, you found that season and you're continuing to find that season, and you're not banking so much on this to be successful. This is just a stepping stone to the next thing, just similar to the podcast was a stepping stone to the next thing. um,
Yeah,
so this is good. This is a good reminder for me, so I appreciate that. Thank you for
of
doing
course.
that. So as hopefully, once this podcast drops, you get, a bunch of sales coming through.
Oh man, we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. What is next then? So how do you move forward, or do you have something that you're ready to go to move forward once this endeavor from your creative state? What's next?
So I've been thinking about that for like the past month, give or take. And it was on like a weekend where my friend was like, "Oh, hey man, like why are you thinking about that already? Like you're not even done with this thing yet." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And he was like, "It sounds like you're giving up." And I was like, "I'm not. I'm going to see this through, but elections coming up real quick. It's only as of today when we're recording, like 20 something days, 23 days until election. Whenever this drops, it'll either be within the week or the week prior."
Right.
And it happened. And like, it's like, I'll only make so many sales after election, and then I'm going to donate it because I don't want to keep dragging this on. So I don't know what's next yet, but I do know that whatever I make, if it's a physical product similar to the cereal, I don't want it to be something that's going to be a rare, collectible, limited edition where only a really small percentage of the uh, community gains value from it. I want it to be something that it will still be a small community who will likely use it and appreciate it because you can't cater to everyone. But I want it to be something that isn't going to be um, just a novelty. I want it to be something that actually brings value to people's day-to-day lives,
Mhm.
whether it's a mobile application, a physical product, a service. I want it to be something that people aren't just excited to buy it to show it off to their friends for a day, a week, or have it as a collector's item. I want it to be something that's going to be used often.
Yeah.
And just makes people's lives better in one way or another. I don't know what that's going to be yet, but that is the goal. I learned with this that it's bittersweet doing the whole cereal thing because I've been making money off of individuals' names at the sake of me, to a certain degree, uh, quieting my political views because prior to this, I worked in legislature and I held a nonpartisan position.
Mhm.
So not being able to speak out about things that have been upsetting to me this year has been discouraging. But I was like, hey, but I'm gonna do my best to make this money to pay off my school loans. So that was a sacrifice I was willing to make, and it very well could be selfish. It very much is, but it's a decision I made and live with. And with that and the divisiveness, I know that I just want it to be something that isn't in politics. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I want it to be something good. Oh, and I was wrapping around. Um, this taught me a lot of lessons,
Yeah.
and one of them was like, one, if you're gonna start a business or try to start a business, have a founding partner,
Hmm.
because I can't do it alone. No one can do it alone. Like you need someone to help you where your weaknesses are and their weaknesses are. You guys complement each other. Your strengths are not theirs and theirs are not yours. You need that because there's a lot of things that I know could have gone better had I had someone who could be like, "Oh, let me do this logistics for you and let me do this for you." And I could focus more on the design and the research and development,
Mhm.
not the e-commerce and not the social media. So that's one thing. And the second that I pulled from this is when starting a business, you have to really focus on not priorities, your values, you know,
That's good.
in that this one, I did it for the wrong reason, but with the right intention. My intention, hey man, make a cool product, see if it works, do it because you'll regret not doing it, try to make some money. Okay, that's a good intention. The wrong reason is at the base of that, the thing that was exciting, initially and in the middle and sporadically was to make the money.
Mm.
And it can't be about the money because that isn't what's going to drive you and keep you motivated the whole way through. It didn't keep me motivated halfway through. It gave me hope, but it was the making of it that got me excited. And like the people seeing it and smiling and laughing, like that got me excited. So I was like, money was at the foundation of this endeavor. And it can't be about that in the future. Like, that's why with this second idea, whatever it may be, my foundational value has to be something that's going to truly make someone's life better, because that's what will keep me excited about it months into it. When I'm feeling down, I can look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this, not because of the money, but because of this moment or their reaction. And those are like the two big takeaways I took from the serial.
That is phenomenal, dude.
Yeah.
And that aligns with again the principles that you stated of being kind, working hard, and taking risks. Like, even you found an opportunity to work hard and take a risk, but it didn't really align with the be kind state because of what the conflict, internal conflict that you're experiencing, and taking away that lesson of creating something that does continue to bring value to the whoever is consuming whatever, whether it is a video or a picture or a product. um, they're consuming it and feeling that vibe of, hey, this is going to influence me today in a better way, or this is going to provide more hope or more joy in my life. And the work and effort that you're putting into it is building upon the risk that you may receive, that may be something that you will see, you know, the risk that happens on your side, but nobody else will be able to witness. And I think what I appreciate, even you stating the business aspect, you can mitigate that risk by bringing on people who see the vision and catch the vision and can help complement your weaknesses or complement just the entirety of what is going to be created. And that's the importance of community. That's the importance of doing things with others. And dude, that's some good lessons, man. And that can transfer in any space. So
I hope so. And yeah, I mean, really though, if anyone listening, you yourself included, if there's like another project that you're like, I want to get into, find someone to help you. Especially if it's a long-term thing, because there was this days where it'd be like, I'm just at home alone in my apartment, like stressing, like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And I got a piece of paper and I'm writing all these different ideas that I can try, and see what works, what doesn't. And then and I'd worry like that and just be an anxious mess for hours. And then I would go see my friend for a beer and I'd just have the paper on me and I'm like, hey, let me just shoot you these ideas really quickly. And immediately, just within 5 minutes, I'm like, cool, I can eliminate all of these except for the last two because they're all garbage. And that in itself helped. And that was just me with someone for a little bit. And if I had that person or someone who could complement this and help for 10 hours a week, 20 hours, however much time they're willing to put in and invest into the same project, would have been amazing.
so sick. That's good. That's a good word, man. That's a good word. As we get closer to close, to draw to the end of the podcast, there's two more sections I really want to hit on. First one being, a lot of my heart and what I hope that this podcast will bring out is just lessons and advice for the next generation. So the next generation could be a lucid term, one of literally generation, like those who are younger than us from an age perspective. But then when I also think about those who are coming up in the same uh, avenues or areas that you have gone through. So whether it is by going through college and doing that route, or creating a box of cereal based upon political, uh, the political candidates in our A season, just whatever that may look like. Just how do we provide advice for those who are wanting to go on this journey, and what words will we give to them just to help them navigate that way? So, what advice would you give to the next generation when we think about the creative endeavors that you have experienced so far?
Sit with yourself long enough without your phone and really think about what is it that you like and what is it that you want to do. Because I think too often in life, people waste their time doing things they don't want to do. And like, if you can change it, which is sometimes not hard to believe, but if you can, which you more than likely can, with what you having control in your life, change it, you know? Like if you're like not happy with, oh man, my apartment's a mess, well then clean it. Oh man, I have a shitty car, then work hard and get a new car. And like I don't know, I don't want to get like overly cheesy where people say like, oh, if you can dream it, it'll happen. You know, some things are definitely way out there. But spend the time to get to know yourself so you can at least identify like, oh, I really am not a social person after all. So I don't want to go to that party and hang out with those people that I don't care about. Like, that's okay to say no and just kick it at home. Right now, COVID, that's probably not happening a whole lot anyway. But
Right.
when things are back to normal, be okay with that. Say no more often to obligations you don't want to do. One really quick, like, snippet or way that I remember it is when someone asks you something, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Mm.
Like, just we'll cut all the bullshit. If I'm not stoked and excited to do it, it's a no. And that's it. And that helps me figure out what's the stuff I want to do. Because there's too much shit to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Way too much. And that's
Yeah.
good. You're in the last month, I think the third or fourth person that I've heard make that statement. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a no, which is, I might need to pay attention to that. And I'm sure as people are listening to it, that's probably something good that they need to filter as well as a part of their um, what to say yes to and no to, because there's way too many things that you could be a part of, but you're only going to stress yourself out, right? You're only going to put that much pressure on you to execute or to be present in all those spaces when, you know, a lot of those spaces you may not necessarily need to be in, um, because it's just maybe not aligned to what you want to go towards. So yeah, you sit with yourself, decipher what that looks like, and then be able to say, hey, I want to give my all. I want to dedicate a year. I want to
Mhm.
dedicate the season to this thing because I feel super confident to take the first step in this space. Like I feel like I have the abilities and can bring folks along with me to do this well and be able to say no to other things that won't align with this goal that I have set for myself. um,
Yeah. The only thing that I would say is that there's potentially a benefit to trying a lot of things for short amount of time. If you can be really quick about it, because it's like, oh, maybe I'll do this. And it's like, I do one podcast episode and I'm like, nah, it's not for me. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll make this music video. Oh, you know what? I'm not into client work. I'm gonna change that. Versus, let me do this for a year and realize I don't like it. I love doing the podcast. It was a blast, but be okay. Like it's both, you know,
yeah.
once you find it, commit, but like, don't be afraid to tinker either. Cause I was like, there's benefit to that too. Like you don't waste your time doing something for just elongated amounts of time.
Okay. I get it. I get it. That makes sense. That makes sense. Before we end out, man, anything you want to shout out, anything you want to promote? Again, you can utilize the rest of this time to hype up the cereal boxes so they're not stuck up in your closet. But no, man, what do you want to promote, man? How can people get in touch with you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at my first name, Isaac, Isaac, R for Ruben, and then Moreno, Moreno, Isaac R. Moreno. And then aside from that, after election, I'm deleting the Facebook. I don't have TikTok anymore. I have Reddit. I'm not going to be on social media a whole lot. I'm just going to post a couple of videos here and there and maybe a YouTube video, and then take some time off to come up with the next idea and to see what that's going to turn into, and learn from these mistakes and make it better and find someone to help me with it. So it's like, oh, cool, this can actually be a business. Um, I have nothing to promote other than like don't buy the cereal, because I want more people to be able to eat it at the food bank come November. Unless you buy it and say, "Hey, give all the money that I just gave you to the food bank," then like I'm down. Uh, so yeah, that's the only thing. And I don't know, have fun, take more risk. Don't take life too seriously, because I don't know, at the end of the day, we can all stress about everything, but it doesn't matter. We're all gonna die anyway. So it's cool. Like, just enjoy yourself right here, right now. And like, yeah, that's me. Enjoy the little things in life. When the sun hits your face and it feels really warm, and you see that cool little squirrel run up the tree because it's afraid of you, like, just enjoy it for what it is. It's awesome. It's beautiful. That's all I got.
I love it. That's that YOLO mentality. No, but
Yeah.
in all seriousness, so like taking every minute, taking every breath, and in gratitude and enjoying the moments that you have, enjoying the presence that you have, and yes. So I'll make sure to plug in your Instagram, because I know you've been doing some excellent photography as well, taking some pictures of some beautiful landscapes, and as well as tagging some dope affirmations with it too, because I think that's what again, tying to the principles of being kind, like allowing space, and especially on the social media, to uplift people, to help brighten someone's day, with a beautiful photo and a beautiful words that tie to it. And I think that has been a really dope uh uh thing for me to take a look at too. Whenever I'm scrolling through, I'm like, okay, look at this dope flower. That's like, look at that dope quote that goes with it, and like, and that's something that a lot of folks need. And so I appreciate you stepping into that space and continuing to utilize a lot of the skill sets that you've gathered in social sciences and businesses, and help promote a better life and a better world, and taking practice and taking risk into that, man. So Isaac, I really appreciate you taking the time tonight to be on the podcast, man. This is dope.
Of course, right? It was an honor, honestly. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Sounds good.
What up? What up? Thanks so much for watching this episode of On the Mic Sound Check. I hope that you got a tremendous value from listening to the message. And if you did, please be sure to like this episode, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share with me what brought you value and how it's going to help you take action, as well as share this episode with a friend so that they can also help them move towards whatever endeavor and goals that they want to reach. And if you want more content, because you know your boy got some more content, follow me on social media, as well as subscribe to my podcast, On the Mic with Ray White, where every episode is geared towards sharing life lessons, encouraging self-reflection, and equipping you to take action. I encourage you all to continue to share your story with others, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.